Imagine ruling the world's most sophisticated empire. You have iron-tipped arrows, a bureaucracy that tracks every sack of grain, and a god who lives in your palace. You are invincible. Then in less than a single generation it all vanishes. Your cities burn. Your language dies. Your own people forget how to write. This isn't the fall of Rome. This is the story of Assyria's first empire. The empire that invented the rulebook for domination. The empire that rose from slavery to superpower and then lost everything, not once, but twice. To understand the Middle Assyrian Empire, you have to forget everything you think you know about power. Before 1363 BCE, the city of Assur was not a capital. It was a ghost waiting to be buried. For nearly a century, the Assyrian people had been subjects in all but name. Their master was the kingdom of Mitanni, a powerful Hurrian state that controlled the trade routes of northern Mesopotamia from the Mediterranean to the Zagros Mountains. The Mitanni were not kind rulers. They took horses, grain, and labor from Assur. They installed their own governors. The Assyrian king, a man called Ashur-uballit I, was a puppet. He ruled only because Mitanni allowed it. Archaeologists have found letters from this period. One letter, written by the Egyptian pharaoh, addresses the Assyrian king as an equal, but historians believe that letter was a lie, a diplomatic fiction. On the ground, Assyria was a vassal. Inside the walls of Assur, resentment was growing. The Assyrians had a powerful national god named Ashur. His temple sat on a cliff overlooking the Tigris River. And every day that a Mitanni soldier walked past that temple, the priests whispered the same thing: "This cannot stand." Then, Mitanni made a fatal mistake. They went to war with the Hittites. The Hittites were based in modern-day Turkey. They had iron weapons. They had chariots. The war drained Mitanni of every resource, and while the giants fought each other, the slave sharpened its knife. Enter Ashur-uballit I. He took the throne in 1363 BCE. He looked at his weakened Mitanni overlords and refused to pay tribute. He began fortifying the walls of Assur. He hired mercenaries from the mountain tribes. Then he did something unprecedented. He sent a letter to the Pharaoh of Egypt, the wealthiest man on earth, and called himself a great king. Egypt was confused. Who was this nobody? But Ashur-uballit didn't wait for an answer. He marched his new army north. He crushed the Mitanni garrisons. He killed the governor. He declared independence. The Middle Assyrian Empire had begun, not with a grand revolution, but with a single refusal. One man saying no. But Ashur-uballit knew something that every failed ruler forgets. Winning a war is easy. Keeping an empire is hell. How do you control land that stretches 300 miles from north to south? How do you make sure that a farmer in the west pays his taxes to a king he has never seen? The Middle Assyrian Empire answered that question with clay. The single most important artifact from this period is not a weapon, it is a tablet. Archaeologists have uncovered over 3,000 cuneiform tablets from the cities of Assur and Tukulti-Ninurta. These are not epic poems. They are receipts, tax records, court rulings, land deeds. This was the first true bureaucracy of terror. Let me give you an example. Under the king Tiglath-Pileser I, who ruled from 1307 to 1275 BCE, the empire issued a law code. We still have fragments of it today. The Middle Assyrian laws cover everything from property disputes to marriage contracts to theft. But here is what makes them different. The punishments are not about justice, they are about visibility. If a woman went outside without a veil, she was publicly beaten. If a man stole from a temple, his nose and ears were cut off. These were not secret punishments. They happened in the town square. Everyone watched, everyone learned. Tiglath-Pileser I also built a new administrative system. He divided the empire into provinces. Each province had a governor appointed directly by the king, not a local chief, not a hereditary lord, a loyal soldier who owed everything to Assyria. That governor collected taxes, raised troops, and reported directly back to the capital. There was no middleman, no negotiation. This is what historians call the infrastructure of control. The Assyrian king had a standing army of professional soldiers, not farmers who picked up spears once a year, men who trained every single day. He had royal roads with relay stations. A message from the western border could reach the king in Assur in less than a week. In the Bronze Age, that was faster than instant. And here is the key detail. The empire was not popular. The conquered people, the Hurrians, the Arameans, the Babylonians, did not love Assyria. They feared it. And fear, when managed correctly, is a renewable resource. As long as the army marched every spring, the taxes flowed every autumn. The center held. By the time of Shalmaneser I, who ruled from 1274 to 1245 BCE, Assyria had finally erased Mitanni from the map. They did not just defeat them, they erased their name from history. Shalmaneser left a royal inscription. It reads, "I captured their cities, I turned their mounds into ruins, I blinded 14,400 of their soldiers in a single day." Whether that number is exactly accurate is debated by historians, but the intention is not. The message was clear: resist, and you will not just die, you will be forgotten. We have to talk about the peak, the exact moment when the Middle Assyrian Empire ruled the known world. That moment is not a year, it is a name, Tukulti-Ninurta I. He ruled from 1244 to 1208 BCE, 36 years of constant war, constant building, and constant paranoia. Tukulti-Ninurta inherited an empire that was rich but restless. The borders were secure. The treasury was full. Most kings would have stopped. He did the opposite. He looked south at Babylon. Babylon was the cultural capital of Mesopotamia. It was older than Assur, richer, holier. Every Assyrian king before Tukulti-Ninurta had treated Babylon with respect. They sent gifts. They married Babylonian princesses. They prayed at Babylonian temples. Tukulti-Ninurta wanted to destroy it. He needed an excuse. He accused the Babylonian king, Ashur-uballit I, of breaking a long-standing treaty. The evidence for this accusation is weak. Most modern historians believe Tukulti-Ninurta invented the casus belli. He did not need a crime. He needed a reason that his own soldiers would believe. The war lasted 2 years. It was brutal. Assyrian supply lines stretched thin. Babylonian soldiers fought street by street through their own cities. But in the end, Tukulti-Ninurta won. He captured Babylon itself. He looted the temples. And in the most humiliating act in Mesopotamian history, he dragged King Ashur-uballit I back to Assur in a wooden dog cage. He forced the Babylonian king to kneel before the god Ashur. Then he placed his foot on the man's neck. For the first time in history, the entire length of Mesopotamia, from the Persian Gulf in the south to the Mediterranean mountains in the west, was ruled by a single king from the north. This was the peak, the absolute height of the Middle Assyrian Empire. Tukulti-Ninurta was so proud that he built an entirely new capital city. He called it Tukulti-Ninurta, which means Port of Tukulti-Ninurta. It was located just 3 kilometers north of Assur. He moved the royal court. He built a massive new temple to the god Ashur. He even wrote a self-congratulatory epic poem about his own greatness. We have fragments of that poem today. One line reads, "I am the king of Sumer and Akkad. The 4 corners of the earth bow to me." But here is the rule of empires. Arrogance has a price, and that price is always collected in blood. Part 4. The First Collapse, Assassination and Chaos. Tukulti-Ninurta conquered the world, but he could not control his own house. The bureaucracy he built was too heavy. The nobility hated him because he broke old traditions. The priests hated him because he neglected the original temple of Ashur in favor of his new city. The army was exhausted from years of constant campaigning. And then he made one final mistake. He angered the merchants. In Assyria, trade was controlled by powerful family networks. They had their own courts, their own laws. Tukulti-Ninurta tried to seize their silver reserves to pay his troops. The merchants conspired with his own son. In 1208 BCE, while the king was praying in his palace, his son stormed the gates with a detachment of bodyguards. They set the palace on fire. Tukulti-Ninurta was killed inside his own temple. The royal inscriptions later called him the king who forsook the god Ashur. That is how you assassinate a ruler and make it look righteous. The empire shattered. Babylon broke free within a decade. The Hittites attacked the northern borders. The mountain tribes raided the eastern provinces. For almost 100 years, Assyria shrank back to a small strip of land around the city of Assur. The great bureaucracy collapsed. Provincial governors stopped sending reports. The standing army dissolved into local militias. This was the first collapse. It looks like the end of the story, but it is not. Part 5. The Revival and the Final Decline. Just when the world wrote them off, the Assyrians got a second wind. Enter Tiglath-Pileser I. He came to the throne in 1114 BCE. He was young, he was ambitious, and he looked at the ruins of his ancestors and decided to rebuild. Tiglath-Pileser I is the greatest Assyrian warrior that almost no one knows about. He left behind a long inscription called the Annals of Tiglath-Pileser I. It is one of the most detailed military records from the ancient world. In the first 5 years of his reign, he marched his army into the mountains of modern-day Turkey. He fought the Nairi tribes. He claimed to have hunted wild bulls in the mountains north of Lake Van. He boasted of killing 120 lions with his own hands. He then turned west. He marched to the Mediterranean Sea. He washed his weapons in the Great Sea, a ritual act of claiming the ocean. He sailed a cedar wood boat on the water to prove that he was the master of the West. He brought back cedar wood from Lebanon to rebuild the temples. He revived the bureaucracy. He rebuilt the roads. He reopened the trade routes. It looked like the Middle Assyrian Empire was eternal, but then the climate changed. Around 1082 BCE, a massive drought struck the Near East. Ice core samples from Greenland and tree ring data from Anatolia confirm this. The rains failed for years. The grain harvest collapsed. The Tigris and Euphrates rivers ran low. Food prices skyrocketed. The Assyrian royal records from this period are fragmented and scarce, but what survives describes a great hunger and people eating the flesh of their children. Historians debate whether this is literal or rhetorical exaggeration. Either way, the message is clear. The empire was starving. And from the deserts of Syria, a new enemy emerged. They were not an army, they were a migration, the Arameans. The Arameans were a collection of nomadic tribes. They had no single king, no capital city. They moved with their flocks of sheep and goats. And when they saw that Assyrian territory was weakly defended and full of empty farms, they simply walked in, thousands of them. Then tens of thousands. They settled in the countryside. They married Assyrian farmers. They stopped speaking Assyrian and started speaking Aramaic. The Assyrian army tried to stop them. But how do you fight people who do not have a city to burn? Every time the Assyrians killed one Aramean tribe, 3 more appeared. The royal chronicles admit that the Arameans captured Nineveh itself, the great holy city. They burned the temples. The Assyrian king, Ashur-uballit I, had to flee into the mountains. He died in 1056 BCE while fighting to hold the Euphrates crossing. After his death, the scribes of Assur stopped writing. The great archives went silent. There are no more royal inscriptions, no more tax records, no more court rulings. The empire did not fall in a single battle. It dissolved. It became a collection of small Aramean-speaking villages that had once been Assyrian. So what was the Middle Assyrian Empire? It was the testing ground for every empire that came after it. The Romans borrowed their road networks from Assyrian supply lines. The Persians borrowed their provincial system from Assyrian governors. And modern bureaucracies borrow their obsession with paperwork from Assyrian tablets. It was great because it solved the fundamental problem of empire: how to control land from a single city. It invented the tools that every superpower still uses today: a professional army, a loyal bureaucracy, a legal code designed for fear. But it declined because it could not solve the other problem. People move, climate changes, languages shift. The Arameans did not destroy Assyria with swords. They destroyed it by having children. They simply outlived the empire. The last king of the Middle Assyrian period left no inscription, no monument, no boast. He died holding a river crossing, probably forgotten by his own soldiers. And the world moved on. But the bones of the system remained, buried in the clay tablets, waiting to be found, waiting to be used again.